Good afternoon and welcome to Inside Out. Today we're going to be discussing 2017 from both a personal and political perspective. If you'd like to share your thoughts, remember you can call us at 202-588-0893. Remember that number is 202-588-0893. But first, let's take a look back at 2016 with my guest contributor, Kurt Mariah.
Hello. I'm really liking this fan club. Thank you very much.
I love it. We should carry it down the street as we walk every day.
So, I'm Kurt Mariah, and I'm going to give you the 2016 best and worst rundown of LGBT politics, news, and entertainment. Okay? Today we will discuss 2017 from both a personal and political perspective, but first we are going to take a look back at 2016. I think the general consensus is 2016 was not a good year.
Well, we're
not
alive.
Not the best year.
We're alive. We're healthy.
We are alive.
And that's the greatest gift.
We are
so I think
alive.
we have to look towards the hope of it all and the greatest gift, which is life. So I'm going to look always at the good and never the bad.
All right. Well,
the bad can smack us sometimes. It can knock us down, but I'm only going to look at the good.
Let's look at, okay, well then good. Let's look at the bad first.
Okay,
right?
let's
get it out of the way, right? So, first of all, let's talk about our words of the year. So we had three kind of outlets for words of the year, right? So the Oxford Dictionary, very well known, very well respected. The 2006 Oxford Dictionary word of the year is post-truth.
Wow, post-truth. That wouldn't be one of mine. But
Right.
I'll take it. I'll go with it.
Right, and
mine would be post-traumatic.
Right,
post-traumatic.
I think that would be
or
a lot of people.
post-Trump.
Right. I think we all want to fast forward to post-Trump, but post-truth is defined as related to circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion.
That's a mouthful.
Right.
And I'm going to leave it right there. That's a mouthful. Move on. Let's get rid of all the words of the day, all the words of the year.
So, the dictionary.com 2016 word of the year is xenophobia, and we don't have to look far from the election to see xenophobia refers to irrational fear of people who are outsiders, others, immigrants. You know, Trump is proposing a ban on Muslim immigration.
Which is horrible and
which
deplorable.
Is terrible.
Which is deplorable because this country was basically built on immigrants.
Yeah.
And, you know, no one is a true American other than Native American.
Exactly.
so everybody else is just on borrowed time. So I guess if he wants to get rid of everybody, we're all moving.
Exactly.
And considering a couple of his ex-wives have to go too.
All of them.
Okay.
Now, this one is interesting. Merriam-Webster's 2016 word of the year is surreal. And I think this is so interesting because there's a couple of places where they chose this word because it was very highly Googled.
Wow.
You know? And people, surreal is kind of like feeling like you're living like in the Matrix, like you can't believe reality. And one thing that I feel is, that I think this word is kind of funny is because after the election, after the November election, liberals were like, this is so surreal, I can't believe this is happening. But I think people of color are like, no, this is right in line with the trend. I don't think.
Well, you know, I think what it was to me, I think many of us got so comfortable in our own space of not, we just thought it would be a shoe-in for our candidate. And many people stayed home, they didn't vote, they got very comfortable in their own spaces. People got very comfortable in their wonderful, wonderful suburban areas. We got very comfortable in our own lives, our six figures, but now that things are going to get shaken up a little bit, people are going to know what it's like to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
So
Well, some people are newly going to know what it's
like. Oh, yeah, they're going to know.
Like people are like, I just can't believe the U.S. is so racist. This is so surreal.
Which is sad, which is horrible, even in 2016. It just breaks my heart to see the level of stupidity. But I believe that sometimes we are going to come to a point where that's just going to phase out, because my belief in looking at the future of this country, that no one will be one race, that everybody will be so mixed. We will have all these beautiful mulatto children running all over the place, and no one can claim that they'll be just an American. We'll be human beings.
Well, I personally believe that we are going to unfortunately experience a 4-year, at the minimum, delay on that dream.
Well, you know what? 4 years, we're going to be a little uncomfortable. So people, tighten your belt, get your piggy banks ready,
You know?
carry your lunch, talk to your neighbors, get out and be friendly and love each other and appreciate one another, because that's all we're going to really need is one another in this
Right.
world. We're going to need each other through it all.
We will definitely have to stick together.
What else are some of the bad things that occurred? Let's go
Okay.
over some of those.
Some of the bad things. Let's say, so in the news, so we have had some really bad news lately, and the theme of the bad news, I would say, is called backlash. Because if you remember, in 2015, gays got the right to marry, right? And so the political news kind of trended toward state by state lockdown on LGBT rights, right? So we had the North Carolina bathroom bill,
Which is ridiculous.
which is absolutely
Which is,
absurd.
It's unbelievable in 2016. But you know what? That's a very uncomfortable person in their own skin who would come up with such stupidity. I really feel sorry for the person who decided, oh, you know what? Let's come up with this bill where folks can't use the bathroom. Eventually, we're going to have one bathroom. Everybody. It's going to have a happy face. It's going to have a happy face. It's not going to be male. It's going to be female. It's just going to have a happy face. And everybody just go to the bathroom all together.
Right.
And we'll just smile in the mirror, and we'll sing songs in our urinals and in our stalls, and we'll just sing Kumbaya, because it's just really ridiculous. That
And
we,
hopefully everyone will just start washing their hands. And that's the most important thing. Hopefully we can get that trend in
Yes.
2017.
we need to
Wash
put that.
your hands, please.
There needs to be a law.
Right. So unfortunately, the protections that were put in place by the federal ruling in 2015 don't protect everyone in the nation, because I think in at least 30 states, people can be fired for being gay, ejected from public places, restaurants, movie theaters and all, for like displaying gayness, I guess.
Well, wake up, America.
Right.
It's a new day. Danny has 2 mommies. Susan has 2 fathers. And just really get over it. Wake up.
Right.
Wake up, and Becky, her father is black and her mother is white, and she's Asian. So get over it. It's going to be a wonderful new world that we live in. So people have to get over the foolishness and embrace diversity, embrace love, and embrace the new world. Because for those folks who are sitting around twiddling their thumbs, thinking of stupid ideas, get over it. We are not in 1908. It's 2016. Get on the Trump train, because I'm going to get on the Trump train. Trust me and Trump are going to have a conversation. I'll be at the White House soon.
So. Please show
I'll
up
be
at
having
Trump
tea.
Tower.
I'll be having tea with Trump, because me and Donald Trump needs me in the White House, because we
I
have a
think-
couple of things to say,
I
and
think
I'd love to
everyone
talk
needs
to
you in
Trump.
the White
Trust me.
Please do.
It'll be the Queen and the first president and the
Cheeto.
president. Yeah.
So in other terrible news for LGBT people, there was unfortunately a mass shooting in Orlando at the Pulse nightclub, where 53 people were injured, 49 people were killed. I think it's kind of impossible to separate what happened from the environment of hatred that was drummed up this year. I think, hatred has become mainstream, and it's like become very acceptable. And when you have cases of violence like this, you really have to look at the culture at large and say, what would make someone think this was okay, or like this was the way to go?
It's a travesty. I think about it, and my heart aches. My heart aches for the families of the lost victims. My heart aches for those who lost their lives and those who were impacted and survived it. But most of all, here's a question I'd like to pose. We don't talk about mental health in this country. And mental health is a form of racism.
Of course.
It is a part, racism is a form of mental health, let me be clear. So it's all connected, and it's really sad, and it's really something that we just kind of tuck under the rug. And we don't talk about those, that Timmy likes to kill dogs in the backyard at 2 years old, or 3 years old, or 4 years old. And Susan is lighting fires. We have to get our children help when they start displaying some issues of dealing around mental health. And hopefully, if we get them to help early, we won't have all of these mass shootings later. We've got to get our children help early on, and we've got to stamp out the stigma around mental health, because then if we don't, then it leads to folks coming in and dealing with hatred and racism and homophobia and all of those isms that are part of mental health.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that that goes along with like creating an environment where people are cared for or in love, kind of overall reaches to everyone, and everyone who needs help gets the help they need.
And it's a travesty. And speaking about love, you know, I think about the artists that we love, that we just lost. We just lost quite a few.
We have lost, oh my God, like
George Michael just passed
Yeah.
over the Christmas holiday. The incredible comedian Ricky Harris passed yesterday. But if we talk about specifically LGBT kind of our loss or our icons of people that we look for.
This year started out kind of
Rough. I
David
woke up
Bowie
and
died.
David Bowie. But
Right.
what about the immortal Natalie Cole, who was an LGBT
She
icon?
died New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and
So
it just
started off.
it just
rough.
shocked us. And who else? Who else did we lose?
We
Prince.
lost David Bowie. We lost Alexis
Prince.
Arquette.
Prince.
Of course.
Of course, Prince.
I want to do
That's-
him
that's
laugh. I mean, like,
Okay.
let's list everyone.
Ron Glass, the incredible
Yeah.
actor Ron Glass,
Ron
that,
Glass.
that was an ally in the LGBTQ community. He really helped a lot of young actors who had came out and were living their truth. And he was very, very loving and very respectful to many of those. And it was amazing that, and I think about Zsa Zsa Gabor, honey, she had 9 husbands.
Yeah.
But she was
Yes, she
135. She was 135
That's
when
one
she
of
died.
those. That's one of those where you can look and see. Okay, she lived it to the fullest.
Baby,
you
she
know?
lived it.
She
9 husbands. Take note. I want to know who's getting the coin.
Exactly.
'Cause-
Who's the heir?
And that last husband was holding her on for the last 5 years of her life. She was on life support. Bless her heart. Child, he was like, plug her up, shock her, break the lamp, just shock her, do whatever you
Bring
gotta do.
her back.
We have some breaking news. I just received a text that Carrie Fisher just passed away.
Oh.
Wow. Wow, Carrie Fisher.
2016 is not done with all of us.
Baby
it's
Death
just
is
not
claiming.
going to let
Wow, Carrie Fisher, another gay icon.
Mm.
Remember how many drag queens dressed up like Princess Leia? My God, God bless Carrie Fisher.
Everyone had
Yeah,
hoped
the
that she would
community.
kind of pull through. But
Yeah, wow, that's, wow, can we just take a moment of silence just for a second?
All right. Well, our
Yeah,
next
but-
segment.
But I'm sorry, we
Yes.
have to address, not only did Prince die this year, Vanity also, we lost
Yes.
Vanity as well, but to address Prince, like, the loss that was felt by his passing, I think cannot be overstated by anyone, I mean, especially in the LGBT community. There was, you know,
I think Prince, with his music and being an icon, he allowed people, he broke down gender barriers. Him, and along with David Bowie, they broke down gender barriers. And they allowed people to be free, and they allowed people to be comfortable in their space. And thinking about people who break down barriers, our next guest is truly someone who's breaking down barriers. Zara, back to you.
Yes, Racine. For our next guest, soon after winning this year's Democratic Party primary to run for at-large D.C.'s council member, Robert White Jr. was appointed to the seat vacated by his former opponent. Mr. White went on to run in the general election and won once again. He lives in Northwest D.C. with his wife, Christy Richardson White, and their infant daughter, Madison. Please welcome Councilmember Robert White.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on.
Thank you for being there. And if anyone would like to call in during this wonderful time, please remember to call us at 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. So without further ado, let me just jump right into it. I'm going to go to our first question. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Robert, for being here, because I'd like to personally thank you, and I'd like to really thank you for always being here.
I always have a great time on your show, so anytime you invite me, I'm gonna break my back to get there.
Isn't that wonderful? I feel like Diana Ross. If you need me, just call me. And he's there and I'm there, which is a wonderful thing. And speaking about always being there, what are some of the LGBT issues that you hope to address as council members?
Well, I think we have to recognize, DC, we are very fortunate to be in a city with so many allies, but we still have a lot of challenges. When you look at access to healthcare, when you look at discrimination, health disparities, these are the things that I think are going to be the top of our local focus, and for me especially in the years coming up. But I think that I and others stand ready, and we have to stand ready and prepared for what we may face from the federal government. We have a lot of concerns about what a President Trump or Vice President Pence or any of their cabinet nominees would do to affect or to hurt the LGBTQ community. And so we have to stay ready to mobilize on those issues at any time.
And that's so important. And giving that, it'll segue into my next question. How do you define being an LGBT ally? And why is it important to you to support our community?
For me, it's a simple thing. It's, these are my brothers and sisters, and, anytime that there's oppression or wrongdoing, then we have an obligation to stand up for each other. And when I look at the successful movements over time, whether it's the women's suffrage movement or the civil rights movement, those movements really did require allies, people who perhaps are not directly affected themselves by the issues, but who know what's right. And, at the end of the day, what's right is right. But also for me personally, I think it wasn't until I got married that I really realized a good friend of mine is a gay man, and he said, I'm looking forward to going to your wedding, but I want to meet somebody, and I wish I could meet somebody there. And I stopped, and I thought, I said, you know what, brother, you're going to be okay at my wedding. It's the single women that are looking for a man that are going to be in trouble. And so I just realized that for whatever reason, so many of my very close friends are gay men. And so that's really just how life developed naturally. But, my brother-in-law, my uncles, it's just really a part of my life.
I think that's wonderful. I think that when people watch you, you are a man who stands in your truth. And when you stand in your truth, you live in your light. And you live in a light of love, respect, honesty. And you live in the light of treating people as human beings first, which is the most important thing. And I think it's so important that whenever I'm in your presence, you always make me feel like I'm part of the family. And I think it's so wonderful. And, is that friend, is he still single? Because Zara, our production manager, is single. I can also throw in Gracie picks me up while I'm here.
Sean, if you're listening, text me. Let me know if you're still single.
Yes, and if you have any other gay relatives that are single, please tell them to call Racine or hook me up on Facebook at RAYCEEN. Follow me.
I can't accept the liability for my relatives. I want to be clear.
Okay, don't. Or your neighbors. Which is wonderful. But I really appreciate you always truly being there. And, and here's another question. How will the new presidential administration impact the lives of LGBT people who live, reside, work, or frequently visit Washington, D.C.?
Well, here's where I think the conversation gets a little less jovial. President-elect Trump has expressed an inclination to pull back marriage equality laws. Vice President-elect Pence has been a proponent of conversion therapy, of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and we just have to be very nervous about the impacts that the federal government can have on D.C. Our jurisdiction is so unique that Congress, with the stroke of a pen, can change any local law that we have, and we have to be nervous about that. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't know or don't fully appreciate is that DC's budget is raised almost entirely from local tax dollars, but our budget still has to go through Congress like an agency, and so they can just add a few words here or a few words there to completely change our laws, having nothing to do with budget. And so they can repeal our laws, they can pass new laws, and it's going to be a tough few years, and I think we have to be ready for it to be a tough few years. But I'm ready for a fight. I know you are, and I know a lot of my friends are too. So I'm not nervous.
I have my boxing gloves ready. I'm ready for a fight, and I can tighten my belt and carry my lunch at times. It's a little tough, and it kind of almost segues into my next question. In a recent interview with Oprah, our First Lady Michelle Obama stated that feeling like not having hope is now what the country feels like. What can you tell LGBT people who feel worried or afraid because of this political climate of feeling like they don't have any hope? How do we?
I try not to speak too much for my colleagues on the council, but I can tell members of the LGBTQ community that you have a council that cares and that will stand up and sacrifice to protect you. And that's a wonderful thing. I think the members of the council disagree on a great number of things, but one thing we don't disagree much on is our love and respect for members of the LGBTQ community. And so I think that we have to take some solace there and appreciate that we live in a city with legislators that are that strongly in the corner of LGBTQ residents. And I think also some incredibly smart people who are ready to take up and go to jurisdictions that may not be as friendly.
I think that's so important. I would love for people to call in if they have any questions. Remember, you can call in at 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. Remember when you used to use pay phones? Remember that? That was such a long time ago. Now you can't even find pay phones. But everyone has cell phones. We live in a world where everybody can call. It's on their hip. They can call from their office. They can just push a number, and they can make a phone call and call in. But we're going to just dialogue, and we're just going to dialogue and just open up some questions, I say to you, what are 3 things that you would like to tell the community? If you had to pick 3 words, what would they be to give us to carry on? Our slogan that it was so one that Obama, hope and believe. But what would be the 3 words that you would give us as a takeaway?
I only need 2, and those 2 words are keep fighting. My hope is that we're going to continue to push through and with LGBTQ rights because we have to reach a place in this country where we are not really talking about these issues anymore, that it's past tense. It's just, there was a time in this country not long ago where interracial marriage was illegal in many states and jurisdictions, and that's not something we talk about anymore. We've accepted that these are basic human rights, and I think that that's where we have to get to in our fight for LGBTQ equality. And so we have to keep fighting on. I don't want us to take any steps backwards because we're too close to really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for all the work that so many have done for generations, and we just can't go back.
We can't. I think we have a caller on the phone. Do we have a caller? Lenonda Williams.
Patrick through.
Who is here for our next segment?
Oh, we're going. It's that time. I love being live because everything happens. So much happens. And when you're live, you never know what exactly happens. So we're going to segue into Lenonda Williams. Is that correct?
Lenonda Williams will be here joining us in the studio.
No, she's actually calling in. I love it because you know what? If I was Trump, you're fired. Somebody's fired. Because y'all are, and I love being live. Isn't this wonderful? Live radio is the best experience.
As the song says,
I love it.
I don't care how you get here, just get
Well,
here.
Just kidding. Let's take a question.
Right. So you're on the council. So when you talk about local municipalities versus like federal laws, can you kind of tell people? I was actually just talking to a friend of mine today. some people feel like they know a change has to happen. They want a change to happen. Can you kind of quickly talk about what are things citizens can do to make sure the trend continues in the right direction, especially considering the administration?
Okay, we have a caller. Actually, I'm queuing in. I'm sorry, I had to go with stuff. Lananda is called. Lananda, we have her whole. Lananda wins. Her segment is at 2:40, so she's a little early. So we're going to put her on call, and we're going to take our first caller. Who's our first caller? Hello. Hi, Brenda.
Brenda Hayes.
How are you? Happy holidays. We know you. We know your voice. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Okay, so who would you like to hear from? Councilmember White? Okay, well,
I
Councilmember,
think
I'm going to throw
this
that your
question
way.
feeds into what we were talking about before. How can citizens really involve themselves?
That's a great question. So, how citizens can involve themselves is engage your local legislatures, but also your activist groups. We, as I said, have some incredibly smart people here in DC, and they're engaged on local LGBTQ issues and national LGBTQ issues. And I think we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can really just get engaged where we are, and what we can do is really divide the local issues from the federal issues, and we can develop plans of attack. But the other thing to just jump into another part of your question, we can't get into divisiveness. I think so frequently we see different groups who really want to divide us and say, these are your issues and priorities, and other group, these are your issues and priorities. And when we're divided, we really do fall. And so we have to remember that we are in these struggles together, which means we have to work together.
See that? It's all about coming together. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. And we have another caller. Brenda, stay with us. And if you have any more calls, call back. But our next caller? Hi, Larry Bush. How are you? Fine, thank you. Happy holidays. Okay, you'll catch me. I'll be on my broom flying through the air. Robert?
First of all, happy birthday, Mr. Bush. Second of all, yes, I think that President-elect Trump and the congressional Republicans have made it very clear that repealing Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act is a top priority, and that's going to be, I think, devastating to us. And there are many protections there for so states, no matter how they feel about our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, can't discriminate in the same way for medical issues, and we need to make sure that they're not able to roll that back.
So in other words, everybody get out, get your mammograms, get your teeth fixed, go see your doctor, get all your, honey, I done made all my appointments before the year is over, honey. So I'm going to my doctor next week, honey. If they cut off Obamacare, baby, I done got everything. I'm all right. I'll be fixed for the next 2 years or 4 years. So I feel like we have to, and one, we can't live in fear. And we have to know that it took us a while to put together this incredible health care. And it will take a while before it's dismantled. So I believe that through prayer, through folks getting, and also, what do you think? People need to get involved on the local level with our elections and get involved and roll your sleeves up and make their voices heard of who you put in office will affect on the local level all the way to the national level. people have to get involved so we won't live in fear when the next administration comes in after this and feel like we lose everything that we fought for. It's going to get a little rocky.
I would just like to interrupt to tell everyone what we're up against here. Not only is the right kind of chanting like repeal Obamacare, but also our newly elected vice president oversaw healthcare cuts that in his municipality spurred, encouraged, increased an outbreak of HIV. As in, like, his policies, Mike Pence policies, allowed an outbreak of HIV in where he was the legislator. So we really have to focus and, you know, like you said, keep fighting. Because it's going to be a fight.
You know, I think in order for us to understand the full ramifications, I always say we've been so comfortable, and being uncomfortable is foreign to us. So we came from a place that we were uncomfortable. We were in closets, we were fighting for this, and we were fighting for that, and we were locked down in oppression. And now we start to see a climate of oppression. But I believe through that will be the breakthrough of change and hope, and people coming together and understanding when something begins to be taken from us, the fight has to continue. That's when you really fight harder. It's like when someone knocks you down and your parents say, get back up. When that bully knocks you down, and keep fighting. We have one more. We have a caller? Do we have a caller? We have one more caller. Thank you, Larry. Fine, thank you. Hi, Ron Thomas of Alsor. Yeah. Okay, what's your question?
Ron, I was going to ask you. Doesn't Alsora have a bus? I'm kidding, of course. No, I think we have to support each other on that. I don't know of any resources the government has that could be used for that, and generally the government wouldn't be able to use its resources, its taxpayer resources to mobilize people for advocacy. And so what we have to do is we really have to engage the advocacy organizations and organizations like Alsora, which is an organization I love, to really help to do that. So we can raise money, we can buy vans, whatever we have to do. I think we have to step up our game. As Racine said, so many of us have gotten comfortable being comfortable, and it's time that we get uncomfortable again and really start to push a little bit harder. But anything I can do to help mobilize people who might be homebound and want to take up and fight, I would be happy to do it.
So it seems like we still have work to be done as a community, as a country, and we have to cross party lines. We have to come together, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and those who are just haven't picked a party. We have to come together and start working to better the race of human beings on this earth if we want to get anywhere, if we want to move forward. We have one more question for Councilmember Robert White before he leaves.
Hello, Mr. White. I have one question to ask. Since doing the show, I've run across a lot of people. Well, one of the things that I've run across most often is homeless teenagers and LGBTQ homeless teenagers. Do you guys have anything in the pipeline that you can think of that's going to be helping our homeless teens this year or moving forward for your term?
I'm glad you asked about that specifically. The mayor, to her credit, early in her administration, increased the number of beds for LGBT youth. But we still have a ways to go, and so when we look at organizations like the Wanda Austin House and others that provide those services, and we know that there's a disproportionate number of homeless LGBTQ youth, then we know we have more work to do. And so what you have is my commitment that I'm going to push for more funding for beds for homeless LGBTQ youth.
Thank you.
And it's so important that, once again, we want to thank you, Robert White, for being here and being an advocate, being an ally, but most of all, being a human being who understands the needs of those who have been oppressed and those who have felt disenfranchised. And I want to thank you. Give them a round of applause, everybody. And before you leave, and we're getting ready to segue into our next segment with the incredible Lononda Williams, how can people contact you?
Well, you can reach me on social media, and I'm Robert White _@large.
DC.
Robert White _DC. There we are. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can call my office. You can email me at rwhite@dccouncil.us. I am accessible, if nothing else.
And we appreciate that. Thank you. Now, without further ado, we're going into our next segment. Lononda is a counselor, life coach, and the host of the Lononda Williams Show, which is available online for your listening pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, to discuss some of the issues around mental health and how do we begin to heal as a country, as a people, I present to you our next guest, the incredible Miss Lononda Williams. Thank you. Thank you for being here. You are a psychotherapist. You are such an amazing woman, such an amazing force in the community. And I think that all of the questions from our wonderful callers who called in happen to segue into feeling like those who have no hope, beginning to feel hopeless. So this is my next question, and my first question to you. Some of our listeners may feel distraught about the election. What's some of the advice for them?
Well, I think that's a great question to start with. Like, I want to thank you again for having me on Inside Out Radio, and you're doing an amazing job being a co-host. I was
Thank you.
having a permanent show on WPFW at some point. But I think the first part of this is really understanding that we have the historical background and the knowledge and all of the tools that we need to be really clear and to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and understand that we can move forward. I think that within the DC culture, we are always knowing that a transition is going to occur between December and January if you're a native Washingtonian. So the idea of change is already embedded in us. But I think around the world, we have the obligation to really set the standard of how to manage stress and how to prepare for these transitions, because we do the changing of the guard every 4 years. We either do it locally or we do it on a federal level. So I think that when I think about how to form and really reflect this idea, this appointment, is to remember that President-elect Trump, first of all, won't be the first or the last person that we have in office that we aren't totally satisfied with. However, we have seen a springboard of grassroots organizations, and I've never seen such a political heightening of civil unrest, voicing their opinions from all over. So I think we should really understand that as we're watching TV, we can be reflective on the basic level of seeing our millennials stepping up to the plate and saying that they won't accept it, they're gonna challenge it at every turn, and that this won't be something that we go quietly onto the night. It really reminds me of the remnants of the civil rights movement, and we saw people that were participating in Red Summer and all these different, very clear marks of demarcation within our history that showed us how to move forward. But from a psychological perspective, we also have to look at the metaphysical side of this issue and remember that people of color, LGBT, identified persons, we wake up in a state of transition every morning. So this is not new to us. It won't be the first, it won't be the last. So I think that we are in the perfect position in the LGBT community and in any particular community of color to really model how those solutions and how to move this forward and how to push the issue and managing our stress. Because we've always done it. We do it every day.
I think that with this issue, when we even talked about it earlier about the isms that come under mental health, I think a lot of people, when they start to feel depressed this time of the year, and so many people are depressed around this whole new election, and we are dealing with people who are lashing out and who are dealing with so many isms as a whole, and it's really amazing how people still suppress the level of mental health and do not talk about the issues surrounding mental health in this country. It's like a taboo. And for anybody who would like to call in, you can reach us at 202-588-0893 and talk with our wonderful life coach, our psychotherapist, and our wonderful guest, Lananda, from the Lananda Williams Show. Let me ask you this, Lananda. How might we best cope with the political news when we find it distressing?
Well, I think the first step that we need to do is just to realize that we all went into these elections thinking that someone would not win. And we knew that we wanted a certain person to be the victor. And I think just acknowledging that it's all right to be disappointed. It's all right to be distraught. I've heard fourth graders in my son's school talking about the level of distress that they've had or experienced for thinking that Donald Trump is going to be our next president. So I think that if you are a person that has a family, if you're a person that has small children, really understanding that a basic thing that you can do is really to sit down with your kids and let them problem solve what is the worst case scenario that they felt was going to happen. There's some things that you can do within your family that are already pillars that you do every day to really remind them that we will get past this. And I think that kids either writing it out, either letting your kids know that they can journal, they can create something, they can pictures. Kids do a lot of things with either pictures or just play. But let your kids really act it out. Let them tell you how they feel. Let them mimic him. Let them, all the things that we see on TV. We see Saturday Night Live, and we think that it's comical that we see Alec Baldwin doing all of these skits of Trump. But really, that's a form of therapy that we don't really talk about. But just laughing at our pain is something historically that people all over the world have always done. So if you can't afford a therapist, you can't afford to get out, do some things in your home. Call your friends over, have a dinner during the inauguration, and really sit down and reflect and process it in a safe way so that you don't bottle it up and then start to lash out racing. Because we know that once you hold something in, repress it, then carry it with you and you take it to work. And it's only one time that you're going to experience someone that did vote for him, that is a supporter, that will come up and say something. And this is where we're seeing fights, we're seeing people losing their jobs, we're seeing all of this different violent acts that are coming from people suppressing their feelings. When really you can have a small gathering, you get together, and you can start to talk to your family. There was an article in the Washington Post that actually talked about increase in therapy visits due to Trump being in office. A woman literally said that she started to increase her visits from her therapist due to his being elected.
And some are even calling it, I've heard this term being used, the Trump effect. And it's so amazing, but I'm going to say, this is my final question, and we'll wrap it up. Many people are feeling we're in a state of, people are feeling lost, and people are feeling, where can they go? What are some of the places for folks to need support, or some of the places people can go to look? And you know what's, of course, people worry about, should I see a psychotherapist? Should I see a life coach? How do I begin to feel better? What are some of the things that, can you give us some advice on where people can go to begin to look for the proper help that they need?
Yes, well, I think that one of the things that we don't think about is that one of the people are starting to organize marches and peaceful rallies and protests. We don't see that as being a typical vehicle of psychotherapy or therapeutic support. But I think in a time where people are economically being hit harder than they ever have before, people are starting. People are feeling devastatedly disappointed across a lot of different spectrums. That online communities, online support groups are the first place you can go. So that you can seek support, you can seek like-minded people, and you can start to either read blogs, which is a very good way to be reflective of your own awareness, start to move forward with just understanding if there's other area that have grassroots movement, joining a political movement that's peaceful in the way that you can express what your ideas are. Because what you said in the
What's the problem?
stance, it holds firm,
You can talk. You're off the air.
lethargic, and
You can talk. Yeah.
about the fact that
Okay.
the person
Is there only one line?
this post
Oh, because I have someone calling in that said nobody's answering.
for solution, but the solutions that we're looking for are ourselves.
You're back on now.
Online. You can always, the second thing is always call your psychotherapist. If you're connected to a therapist, now is the time because you don't want to wait until the bottom falls out. You
And
don't
that's
wanna
so
wait
important.
until-
That's so important. We have one caller. We have a caller that's been holding for a while. So let's. Oh, they haven't called back?
1 second, 1 second. Keep going.
Okay, all right. So listen, I love being live because anything can happen. So work with us. It's a lot going on. But LaNonda, on a lighter note, I'd like to ask the question: how can people follow you? Because I know that you have a wonderful article coming out in one of our national magazines. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, one, thank you so much for that support. And I was going to say one thing, but the third is that there are a lot of online courses that people, psychotherapists are offering, which gives you a snapshot and it gives you a highlight of how you can start the therapeutic process. And we're actually in the process of offering one of those courses. So if you are a woman, you're particularly to move forward in 2017 and get some of these stresses, some of these ideas of what is really disappointing you, how you want to get started in a positive way, we're launching the Destiny Mastermind course.
Nobody's calling.
Destiny at gmail.com. And these are one of the courses that a lot of different life coaches, a lot of different psychotherapists are offering that gives people accessibility that you can do in the comfort of your home. And for how
I think we've lost you, LaNonda, but we'll keep going. Okay, you're coming in and out, but you've given people a lot to feed on, and for time, we're about to wrap up. So let me tell you, my final question one more time with you is, tell us about how people can follow you. We've lost her. I love live. Live is a wonderful thing. We've lost her. Please follow LaNonda Williams on all forms of social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. That's LaNonda Williams, and it's spelled LaNada, LaNonda Williams, WILLIAMS. And you can follow her under the LaNonda Williams Show. I hope she can come. I think she's gone. But I love it. It's been a wonderful experience, and we're going to wrap up because our show does end at 3 p.m. and we have to do our wrap up. So here's the wrap up. Back to you, Kurt.
To wrap this up, we didn't get time to talk about the good that has been the case with the LGBT community. There have been a lot of beautiful movies to come out. Very notably, Moonlight. Who saw Moonlight?
Moonlight was incredible. It was a
Was it
beautiful,
not?
beautiful small film that built into this wonderful, wonderful, amazing project. Moonlight has been incredible. And the cast, the ensemble cast, it's phenomenal. It's incredible. It's a wonderful.
Also, we also had some the Olympics. If everyone recalls, we did have the Olympics this year, and we had 64 openly gay athletes. 10 won.
Oh, LaNonda's back. She's back. Oh, I love live. I love live. I love it. That's okay. That's all right, LaNonda. Let me just wrap it up with you. How can people follow you? And tell us what magazine that you'll be featured in so people can learn more about you, so we can learn to follow you, and when your show airs so people will know to follow you as well.
Perfect. So you can follow me at LWS Radio. Our show is the Winona Williams Show. It airs on Bliss.fm. It's every day at 6 p.m. You can find us, tweet us at LWS Radio. You can always also send us an email at Winona Williams, which is LANA, Winona Williams Radio at gmail.com. I am featured in this month's Ebony, where we talk about the merging of psychotherapy with spirituality and just debunking this idea of I'm okay. We're always telling people we feel okay, but typically we aren't. So with that, we are always looking to spread this idea of mental health and to help destigmatize it. We're launching a course called Destiny Mastermind, which is being released January the 6th. It's an online webinar that allows women to interact and to really start to de-stress themselves and to talk about this level of disappointment and really to embrace their purpose. So if you're looking for more information and wanting to just get started with psychotherapy, you can always do that.
Michelle.
I love it. We have one more caller. I think we got to wrap it up. They're telling us to wrap up. So we have to wrap it up. So thank you so much, Lananda, and thank all of those who called. Thank you for being a part of this wonderful journey here on Inside Out. Here's my final thought before we close out. I always like to leave with affirmation, and it's a wonderful affirmation that I've always heard unknown for the new year. I want to dance like nobody's watching. I want to work like I don't need the money, and I want to live like there's no tomorrow. So that's something I just want to live to send out to everyone. And my final thought, I'm going to give you two. Faith is like a palm tree in a storm. It will bend but never break. So I want you to hold on to those encouraging words for 2017. And back to you, Zahra.
We want to thank our guests, our engineer, all of Team Racine volunteers in the studio, and all of our listeners for joining us today. For more information, please visit the Inside Out LGBT